Hey guys, in today's video, we're gonna be recrafting a pair of Thursday boots. Now these things are from this guy over here. They're really in stinky bad condition. We're gonna make these things awesome. Stay tuned. So I am really excited to get into these. You brought me, these are your personal boots, right?
Yep.
This is William from BootSpy. You guys can check out his channel. He's got a lot of cool boot content. We'll put a link to the description of his page down below. Really awesome stuff. We're excited. He's actually local to us, so that's how you found us. Yep. You brought us these things. They're in rough shape. Are these like your first boot?
Yep, these are my first pair of boots. It's what made me fall in love with the whole boot genre. Saw you guys did great work, so I'm really excited to learn from you guys on how to recraft these.
Awesome. Now, from what I know, that we're going to try to keep these pretty clean and original. We're not going to transform them entirely. We're going to put a little twist, our own little personal twist on them. I'm really excited to get into these myself, but I'm actually going to step out. So my teacher, Tony Wyatt's going to step in, and he's going to make you do one boot, and he's going to do the other, and we're going to see how that goes.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, William. So today we're going to take and recraft your boots. But I want you to do one, and okay. I'm going to do the other.
Sounds good.
That way our viewing audience can do two things. One, they're going to learn what it's like to be an apprentice through your eyes. And two, what it's like to see a cobbler do the work.
I hope they both end up looking reasonably similar. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what my handiwork's
We'll
like.
get the final touches out there.
Nice.
So. All right, so let's get started. Your aprons are over here. Let's grab us an apron. So the first thing you got to have when you're a cobbler is a lip knife. Reason it's called a lip knife is it comes out and then it has a slight lip. When you're doing certain things on a shoe, you don't want to cut the upper, so if you had a sharp point, you could slice into the upper. So like if you're slicing along right here, see that is turned away so it won't scar the upper. So every cobbler has his own official lip knife, so you're gonna get one today.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can just keep it in your pocket there. So what we've got going on here is we're gonna remove the top lift, then we're gonna remove the base, and then we're gonna remove the sole. Okay. So these are nippers. Nip
just like that.
The rubber, yeah, and just pry. You use it kind of like a crowbar, roll it, and give it a little snatch. It's off. Then you want to use the pull the nails out. And then we have a thing called a heel lift. You slide that up underneath the heel. Just kind of work it under there because this thing's glued on. It helps you get it going. Now you want to avoid where you see nails because that'll keep you from sliding further under. Now, see, I got it to break. So now I'm going to turn this over so that I have a better leverage. And Thursday puts their heel bases on very well, as you can see. A lot of companies, you put that heel lift under there. Give it a little pry, it comes right off, but Thursday does a little bit. So, all right, so I've got the heel off of mine.
So first step again, I take this and I'm prying up the heel.
Taking the rubber top lift off, yes.
So you're just tossing these back here.
Correct. Yeah, it's just a little flip of the wrist and nails in the trash can.
This is called the heel knife?
Heel lift.
Heel lift.
Yep. Lifts the heel up.
definitely a lot harder than it looks.
Okay, so what you want to do is you want to get in here and kind of push down this way and work so you can get some depth.
Okay.
And then you
get your leverage in there.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got glue holding the heel on all the way around.
Kind of slide it around.
So yeah, kind of try to work the edge right here, just the edge.
Okay.
And then see you can slide it in there and get a little bit, and you can just kind of go all the way around a little bit at a time.
Okay.
And get it loose, and that might help you get that out of there because it's on there really good. Like I said, Thursday does a good job of attaching their heel bases.
I'm noticing. That's what I'm learning now.
Okay, now that you're in the center back here, turn it over the other way, spin it, and come in and slide your boot in this way and hold it with this hand down here.
Okay.
So it doesn't pop up on you.
Okay.
You're holding it down. And now try to pry up that way too, like you were doing in the front. Yeah, see, now you're not starting to make some progress on that thing. Come back to this side right here and try to pry it the way we were just doing the back.
This way?
Yeah, like right in between these two nails. Yeah, right there. Try to get it further in, deeper in. There you go.
There we go.
All right.
Woo! That's my workout for the day.
Okay, so now we've got the heels off. It's time to cut the soles off. So this is called a rip knife. I don't know the official name. If you order one, it's called a McKay knife.
Okay.
I don't know why, but we call it a rip knife for some reason. So you see you've got your sole, you've got your midsole, and you've got your welt. We want to get rid of these two right here so that we could pick the stitches in the welt if we're going to reuse the same welt.
Okay.
And so I take the knife and slide it backwards and just kind of get the welt separated from the midsole. And then I dig in, and then what you want to do as you're digging in is you slide the front part forward, not cutting anything, it's just getting there for the leverage, and then you use it as a pivot point to cut your stitches. And see here I cut the midsole a little bit, so you got to be careful not to cut things that you don't want.
Now is that because the midsole is so soft, or is that
That's because it's so spongy. And we're replacing this midsole, so I'm not having to go real slow and worry about cutting it.
Okay, yeah.
So this, because it's so soft, I'm going to get it up out of my way a little bit. Look at here how I've been cutting it.
Oh yeah.
So
that's missing. Yeah, because it's so soft, you can kind of miss the stitches there. Is that what's going on?
yeah, it's just like it's not doing anything to hold the knife down, so it can come up real easy. So get back here and get set that up. So here I'm pulling it where the stitches have already come through, been worn through with you. We'll get it up. And now, since that midsole's so soft,
you can kind of bend it back and cut it.
Yeah, I'm gonna bend it back this way and just cut each stitch like that to get it to come loose.
So I'm noticing throughout here, this is all cork filler, right? Is
Yeah.
that a pretty traditional way of making boots, or is that?
Yeah, you're you know, most of the time your higher quality boots and shoes have cork filler. This cork is a real big, tight, loose grain cork, so you can see it just all crumbled and fell apart. So we're definitely going to be replacing this with a higher end cork that's got a lot smaller, tighter grain.
Okay.
And there's less resin in this, and that's why it's crumbly. It's also why it's very important when you're doing a new sole to always replace the midsoles. Some cobblers say, oh, well, it's not necessary to replace the midsole. We'll just pull the sole off of the top.
Right.
But then they didn't see that this stuff had crumbled up in here.
Right.
And so then you could have this knot that goes, because you're prying it, it loosens it up.
Okay.
So this knot could move up to there, then you put the new sole on it. Now
your
it's
foot.
on the inside, it feels like you got a rock in your shoe. Yeah. So you always want to do that. So
that's why you go to the pros.
yeah. So if we were going to continue to save the welt on this particular pair, which we've decided to
not, yeah.
to look at the option of doing new welts.
Right.
You would want this black stuff is what's called the bobbin, and the white threads are the top stitch. So it's difficult to pick the top stitch out unless you get rid of the bobbin. So you just kind of pluck them out like that. But since I had so much trouble with the knife, I don't want to throw an apprentice into using the knife on the sole like this. So I'm going to show you an alternative way to getting the sole off when you're dealing with a difficult project like this.
Sounds good.
So let's take yours over to the machine over here. All right, so as you saw where you had worn through the stitches,
Right.
and see, like right here, the stitches have been worn through on the boot. So with that, we could pull up like I did on the other side over there on the other boot. So what we're going to do is we're going to knock the tops off of the bobbin all the way around with the sandpaper. Okay, so now you can take your nippers and you can grab the midsole and the sole with the nippers and peel them off like you did the hilltop lift.
Sweet.
Much easier, right?
Much easier. Yeah.
Some people would say, why don't you do that every time? Because not every time is that an ideal solution to a problem.
Yeah.
So, and see, when you do it this way, with this boot having a nylon stitch, you can pick the stitches
shortcut. Oh, it just comes all up in one loop.
Yep, just very quickly. You can pick a whole lot of stitches at once.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you go and spend all that time picking these stitches, I want to talk to you a little bit about new welts on these boots. Your welts are actually in pretty good shape, so it's not a necessity to replace them, but I always like to try to push new welts just because this gets machine stitched.
Okay.
And when you try to hit all of those original holes, you can get really close with some of the adjustments you can make on the machine, but there is always a possibility that it's gonna punch new holes or miss and kind of go squiggly. So I like to push new welts because for me personally, when I'm looking down at my boots, that stitching around there, especially if it's like a contrasting stitching, really pops and shows, and I like having that stitching being nice and clean and crisp.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
with a new welt, you don't really guarantee that because it's still, you know, it's still tricky, but it's a lot less likely to be squiggly and look bad with a new welt. So I always try to push new welts for that reason, because it ends up with an end result that's more aesthetically pleasing.
Nice. Well, let's go with the new
Wanna
welt.
do new welts then?
Let's do it.
Easy choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we are doing new welts, we're gonna push you into a little bit more of a challenging repair, but stay calm, it's okay, we'll get you through it. Now, a welt is a single piece of leather stitched all the way around that outside there. So what you want to do in order to get it off to start with is you want to find the seam where they start and finish in. It's typically on the medial side, which is the middle side of the boot, and they should be placing it relatively under that heel, but pretty easy to find. As you can see, it's split like that. So once you find that spot, there is a stitch that holds that welt on. You can find the end of it right here. But what I like to do is kind of find it here. You might have to dig it out of this channel a little bit until it starts to pop. And hopefully we get lucky and this welt will come off with ease. So get a couple going. Don't stab yourself or me. And I'll get you started on your boot too, but I'll let you do the fun part.
Nice.
So once you get it loose, get a little leverage on it, and it pulls right off.
Nice.
Just like that.
Nice. There it is. Cool.
From that point, all we need to do is get this stitch out, and you can come from that inside. You got to find the back side of it. If you look closely enough, this one's sunk in there. You can find the back side of that stitch, get some on there, and that will all come out in one piece as well. What do you think? You want to give it a shot?
Let's do it.
So if it starts to fight you like that, that means there's probably a knot or something that's getting in your way. So you don't want to fight it too much because you might end up ripping the boot.
Okay.
Should be good. There it is.
Gotcha. Nice.
So you see how this has a beveled edge right here on this side?
Yeah.
Okay, it also has a channel on this side. So a lot of people will stick the needle straight through the welt like this, and it comes out in the top side of the welt. You're not supposed to do that. What you do is you go in at an angle through the welt like so, so that you come out in that bevel. because that bevel bevels up against the boot, and then when the welt is turned out flat, when the sole is stuck to it, if you come out through here, you'll see where every stitch is around the edge of the boot, whereas in the bevel it hides it.
It goes into
it's just enough of a right over the heel to not be able to see it. So the welt needs to go out away from the boot, so this would be upside down. I like to start in the medial side just like the factory did, and I like to start right here where it curves in, not where it's curving out. Okay. And you pick one of their original holes, slide it in through the welt, then come through the hole. You'll see it goes in through real easy when you use the actual hole. So when you're trying to go through the boot, if you're having a fight, you're not hitting the hole. And then run your thread through, and then divide it in half. So equal parts, that's about right. Good. Okay. And then what you do is you line up, find your next hole. You come through. Then you give yourself some slack right here. Make a little loop. Put it on the barb of the needle and pull it through. Like that. And then you pull this through. Then you pull this tight. And when you pull this tight, you have to lock it. So you pull on both sides. So what you want to do is see how that piece of thread right there is on this side. Okay, so that's not locked in the middle. You don't want to pull it so hard that it's now on this side. You get a feel for when it goes in the middle. You can feel it, and then that's when you pull your
that's where you tighten it.
Yeah, so that way your knots are all in the middle of here. Okay. And so you just keep repeating that process in every hole.
So is this hand welting?
This is hand welting. Yeah.
And this is like when you get a boot that is hand welted. If a company advertises hand welting, it's this super labor intensive process. And and is this more like sturdy than machine welting, or?
Well, it's not more sturdy, but it's safer for the boot because see, this boot has already had a set of holes put in it from the Goodyear welt stitcher when it was manufactured. So now, as I said earlier, I'm using all the original holes. So this boot is undergoing transformation and doesn't know it.
It's
not hurting anything.
You're not stabbing more holes into the leather. You're not like breaking apart the whole bottom.
Exactly. You're not perforating the leather, making it weaker. That's why a lot of manufacturers who offer recraft programs, they will only recraft them twice. Because they know that they're punching new holes and making the bottom of the boot like Swiss cheese. So if they do it a third time, they're going to get a lot of warranty work because they're going to send it back to the customer, and then the whole bottom of the boot's going to, the sole's going to fall off because they just cut the boot in two.
So is that a good reason? So say if you were like, we were talking about Iron Rangers getting resold all the time. Is that a good reason to go to someone like you guys, because you guys will reuse the same hole, so you can get it indefinitely resold rather than once or twice? You can do it 20 times if you needed to.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. Like I've got boots that are over 30 years old.
Really?
And they've been recrafted 6, 7, 8 times, just depending on which boot it is. They still look like new, and it never hurts them to get recrafted again because we reuse the original holes and everything. So go through the process.
Did not know that.
So you don't force this way, you're just stabbing through.
Just going straight.
So the fact that you're going in at an angle, you're not trying to pry it, you're just stabbing it at an angle. Okay. So you find your hole. You're not worried about ringing the hole. All you're worried about is getting through the welt. Okay. So you don't want to be too close up here. You want to be in that channel. So because if you get too close here, then that stitch can just tear through. Okay. So you come through that channel right there, and then you just stab it through,
And then we'll get the hook.
And then you find your hole
Okay.
and slide through.
Okay.
Okay. So you're not trying to go through your boot and the welt all at the same time. You just look for the hole, so you know that once you do get through the welt, you'll be able to line up.
Okay, that makes sense.
And you just nice and straight on the tip of that needle,
so that we're not breaking the needle.
so you don't break them. Yeah.
Okay.
See, you're up here, so you're bumping into the boot, but it doesn't matter because it's not in an area where you have to worry about scarring.
Okay. And so then I go in there.
Yep, just like that. And see how easy that was?
Yeah.
So if you have to fight, you're not doing something right.
Something.
Just
Okay.
back up and look.
Okay, that makes sense. I got the loop. Put it on the barb.
Yeah, what I do is I turn the barb sideways,
Oh, okay.
and then I pull it this way.
Oh, okay. That makes
See,
sense.
now it's in that barb good.
All right. And then
Hold this side of your welt with your thumb. Yeah, there you go. That's all you got to come through. Now pull that tight first. See, because you got to get rid of that.
Okay.
Okay, now you pulled your last stitch out by pulling too tight. You see how you pulled it out?
Yeah.
So when you pull this in, now I'm going to fix this one for you. Because that took some getting to get that second knot back in. But yeah.
Okay. And then do the same thing again.
Yep. You just keep repeating the process. I'm going to go around here and do this welt at another station.
This part, what was the part there?
That goes through the hole.
This goes right there.
Mm-hmm. And now you'll take that one right there with your left hand. Yep, pull that through, and then pull that knot right into the middle. Once you feel it kind of pop into the middle,
There we go.
and you just pull from both sides, make sure it's nice and tight.
Nice.
There you go.
Sweet.
So yeah, everything should be straightforward until we get to the toe. I'll do the toe.
All right.
Now something might make it easier for you. Just do it this way. Some people do that, some people don't.
Okay.
Or do it completely this way so it's straight away from
Okay, so
you.
either way, it's like
Yeah, so that's what this spins for, so you can get it where it's more
where it works for you.
appropriate angle for you.
Is that?
Yeah, it's really tough.
Oh, break
to
his
get
needle.
stuck.
How's your hands feeling?
Hands feel good. I'm just trying to.
You hear that, Toby? He ain't whining about his hands.
Wow.
So you want to get to that point and then kind of move that material up so that then you can kind of see where the end of that
Okay,
needle
yeah.
is, and you can kind of
Okay.
fire your way.
So Toby finished out this boot. He hand welted it on pretty quickly. I was taking my sweet time, so Tony's going to finish this one out for me, and then we'll have 2 welted boots. So one thing I was noticing when I was trying to put on the hand welt was, well, first of all, it's like you're trying to get the needle through the leather welt, which is like, you punch it through, you try not to stab all the way through into the sole of the boot. But then also, I broke one of the needles, which those are pretty expensive needles. But I broke one of the needles because I'm trying to like work through too much material, you're bending it. So it really does take just, I guess, repetition and just kind of having a feel for leather and stuff like that to kind of hit that sweet spot where you go through the leather without punching too far through, right? Is that just that's just a feel?
Yeah, you just got to get a feel for it.
Makes sense.
You know when something feels right and you know when it doesn't.
Yeah, this is going dramatically faster than when I was doing it, so yeah, we're talking about we'd be here all day if I'm finishing this one myself, but I'll take a boot home for myself and give it some practice.
Okay, so when you do the last stitch, pull it through, get your needle behind your nut, and then pull your thread all the way through from the outside. And then the way I was taught, tie one and then you do a double, pull it tight, Alright, so we've got both of them re-welted, and now it's time to go to cork. As we mentioned earlier about the big chunky cork before,
right.
The cork we're going to replace it for is a lot tighter grain, a lot firmer, so it's not going to crumble under the shoe and stuff, and it'll give a good platform for your foot.
Okay.
You'll feel like you've got a good cushion underneath there because it won't break down so easily. While we've got before we go with the cork here, while we've got the boot apart, so Thursday boots have a fiber inner sole. They have a harder fiber shank area here, and it's hard to see, but there's actually a steel shank right inside underneath this fiber here. So this fiber, this pink fiber, is 2 layers, one on top of the steel shank so that you don't feel it against your foot, and then the one underneath here giving stability to the shoe or the boot. And then one thing that we kind of touched on a little bit about is this right here. This is a really nice feature that they put in the boot. I like this because what this area here is where the gemming likes to break loose because of the stress that the boot goes under, and so they put this girth across there to give it stability. There's higher end boots that don't do that, higher end shoes as well. So, and then there's obviously higher end ones that do it, and that's the purpose of that, is to help keep that gemming from breaking loose right there and losing your stability in your boot. Yeah, it gets real wide and loose on your foot because it's not holding anymore. So that's a nice feature that they did. So now it's time to put the cork in, man.
All right, let's do it. So I've seen Allen Edmonds, they do like hot cork. Is that common, or is that even a thing, or is that where they like take the cork and kind of spread it? They're using pads.
That's a very good question because a lot of people wonder why we use this instead of the hot cork. So hot cork is what was used in here originally from the manufacturer, and there's nothing wrong with it on a manufacturer basis, in my opinion. So this boot was on a last. It was perfectly formed. The void area was all fresh. You smear hot cork in and you fill in the void. Perfect. In a repair basis, it's not a good idea, because as you can see, there's a lump right here where the ball of your foot has shaped it to make it feel good to your foot and stuff. And so if I was to take and put new hot cork in here, then that hot cork flows around everything, so it's kind of like a water bed with not enough water in it. So you're going to hit the bottom wherever you're putting your pressures.
So it's like almost the cork wouldn't really make a difference in that point, because I'm still it's still sunk in.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the same thickness all the way through, so it gives you a good consistent filler. So where this has pushed down for now, it's gonna level that up and takes away some of that excessive footprint. Because you know your cork was crumbling and had moved away, so you have a little bit of excessive. It won't completely take away where it's broken into your foot, but it will take away the excessive area, so that you don't feel like your foot is in a sinkhole and cause your metatarsal heads to get fatigued throughout the end of the day, because your boots are now getting older and they're not holding as well because the cork is all spread out. This is going to put it back to like good and fresh for you.
Nice.
Alright, so now what we're going to do is fill in the cavity. So we take the cork, stick it on here, come around the edges, turn this one around, try to place it where it'll fill all the void, like that. And you hammer it. See, that tells me where my edges are. Cut off the excess. We're going to sand it smooth too, but it just gets it where she don't suck down in the machine. There you go. Stick it as
far back as possible.
Yeah, because remember that was really close, so you want to be right at that lip there.
Just hammer it in.
Yep. So you're hammering like a carpenter.
No.
You've used to using the carpenter's hammer. So if you notice,
this goes bent down.
Yeah. You notice the hammerhead turns down, whereas a carpenter hammer straight out.
Yeah.
So cobbler hammer is designed to work side to last. See, whereas if you hit like you would have to with a carpenter's hammer, you'd be hitting your knuckles.
Right.
So you come to the side, swing like that. This is important later when we're doing the sole, not so important on the cork, but I figured I'd go ahead and give you a lesson where we could beat it up and you could practice it.
Make a difference here.
Yeah.
So that's off to the side.
Yeah, see, now the head is hitting flat on your surface. Yeah. Won't make marks.
Okay.
Perfect.
Nice.
Okay, now we're going to sand these edges. So I'll sand mine and show you how I'm doing it, and then you'll do yours. Main thing you want to be careful is not to sand away your cork in the center, because that's what your void filler is. And it's easy to do when you're focusing on getting these edges. And another thing you want to make sure you don't do is sand the stitches.
Just hit the stitch,
Because then you got to hand stitch that again.
Go back to that
and your hands are tired of hand stitching. So. Alright, so you decided to go with leather midsoles instead of the rubber and everything. So what we want to do is we want to rough this up on both sides so that we get a really good bond and you don't get any squeaks. So if you just take and cement this, there's a possibility that there's loose dust from the manufacturing process. We're going to get rid of all of that. And then this side is slicked down because it's made for a sole, and we're using it as a midsole. So we're going to get rid of that slickness so your day-night sole bonds to it real well.
Nice, sweet.
And then we'll also grab your day-night soles and knock the oxidation off of the bottom of it. So it bonds real well as also.
Nice.
So now, as I explained before, you want to make sure you get cement because cement doesn't stick where cement isn't at. Also on the soles or midsoles, it's extremely important because where cement isn't at and it doesn't stick is where you're going to get two pieces of material rubbing together and have a good squeak when you go to walking. All the
Can't
time.
have squeaky boots.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you can do a boot or shoe on the thing. Sometimes it's easier to hold it in your hand while you're doing your cementing. Everybody's different.
Are you cementing the welt too?
Yeah, so that's another thing is you want to be sure to get an ample amount on the welt without getting it all over the upper. Okay. Now, I've been dubbed the Cement King by my brother because I have a tendency to get it on the upper, and he's like, "What do you do? Dip it in the cement pot or something, man? How did you get that much glue on the shoe?" But it's just the way it is. So, brothers are like that for you.
Of course.
So while I've got it, see, I got the majority of the wet off over here, and see, I got some on the upper there, enough to drive him crazy. And put it over here where I can see that welt, because this one, having a new welt, the welts are turned down as opposed to one where it's already been resoled and flattened out. So I want to make sure that I get that cement. But then we don't want it to be too thick anywhere, so we take, after we've emptied it all out, and kind of clean off excess. Yep. And then pick your proper inner midsole. So this is the one for that one. Actually, I misquoted Ricky earlier. It was the way he said it was, cement don't stick where cement ain't at.
Yeah, you gotta get the ain't in there.
Gotta get that ain't in there. So nice even coat, no heavy thick spots anywhere. So you get a good bond. The glue's not gooey.
Nice.
Let go later on.
More.
Okay, you also need to go the other direction. You're brushing all in one direction.
Okay.
It's a very porous material, and so you want to get cement in both directions of the pores so it grabs real good.
That makes sense.
So as you can see, the midsole is nice and stiff.
Right.
So we don't want to just stick it to the boot because it'll do two things. One, it'll take the natural curve out of the boot and make it look like that. But also, it'll make the boot extremely stiff for you to try to break in.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to kind of, you're already used to these boots being broken in. They weren't brand new, you know,
Right.
so now it would feel really weird if they were stiff. So what we do is we start flexing.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of help you break in that midsole.
Oh, okay.
We'll do the day-night soles the exact same way. And so we're going to flex it. And then what you want to do is, everybody does it different. Tobias does it from this way and sticks the boot on it that way where he can see. I was taught upside down, so upside down is the way I do it. But I just use my fingers as guides and touch here and here so that I don't stick the cement where it shouldn't. And then once I've got it, I double check before I seal the whole thing up, make sure I've got an excess past my welt edges. And then go down the center, okay, and then roll it out. And the reason is, when a boot is taken apart, it's relaxed. It's up like this. And if you just stick the outside edges and then you try to stick the middle, you're going to have a bulge in the middle, and your boot is going to be narrow, which we get a lot of people who ask, you know, hey, is this going to make my shoe more narrow when I get it resoled? Or they're afraid to get it done because they've had it done before and somebody didn't do it right and it came out too narrow. So the rollout is what helps prevent the narrowing of the shoe or boot. So now we're going to come down, work our way down. Notice how I'm primarily focusing in the center and then working to the outsides. And then you take it off. See how the welt is sticking up away from it and everything. We're going to use this, is called a welt press.
Okay.
So this whole machine is called a 5-in-1 because it's one machine that does 5 different jobs.
Okay.
Now, in the industry, what those 5 jobs are is arguable. Okay. So this is a welt press. So I'm setting it on there and see how it's pressing the welt down to the midsole.
Okay.
All right. So I'm doing it up close to the boot first, and then I'm going to make a second pass since these are new welts and come out to the outer edge and get that outer edge pressed down as well. So that's one job this does.
Okay.
Another job it does is it's a cutter. So I'm going to take, now what's important is this right here. You want to have the angle of this guide proper with this, because if you turn too much, you're going to jump up on your welt and cut half your welt off, and then you got to resew a new welt on. If you turn it too far out, you're not going to cut up close to your welt, and that just makes your job a pain in the butt. So like that.
Nice.
See, that cuts it off.
Like that. And then you bent it in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm. See how stiff it is to your hands?
Yeah.
Imagine it being glued to everything else and then trying to break it in with your foot.
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right. And then, like you said, immediately put it on. All right. So then I'm kind of trying to line it up so I have excess space on all sides, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think you're gonna make it over here.
Over on this side?
Well, no. Okay. Actually, you nailed it. Okay. You had a lot over here. Sorry.
And then I'm sticking it down.
Push it down. Roll your foot, your hand down the middle. Yep, like that.
And then the outsides, right? Roll it over.
Yep, and roll out the outsides. I always start at the heel.
Start at the heel. And you have to lift that up.
Yep. Not as easy to get around that thing as it looks on them videos, is it?
No way. Oh, I can see where I put a bunch of cement right on the upper. Oops. Got off track. Too close. And you said
Now
one more
go
time.
around your outer edge, yeah.
Oops. Good. Lost it.
Yep. You can just pick it up and set it back on there.
Okay. Cutting the weld.
Right. Please don't. Okay, one other point I want to show you real quick is you're tilting this shoe to avoid anything like
Right.
cutting the weld or whatever. But when you do that, you're cutting your material at an angle. So that means this is smaller than your welt. If you cut it at an angle that way, it would be bigger than your welt, which
Right.
would be less of a problem than being smaller. So you have to make sure you focus on keeping the
straight.
boot level as you go around
Okay.
instead of
Angling
twisting like that or like
Makes
that.
sense.
Yep. But you're actually doing really good with the 501, by the way. most people I teach, when they do their first pass around, they're close to a ½ inch out away from
really?
the welt. Yeah.
I was gonna say those are famous last words right there.
All right, so now it's just time to get the day-night soles ready. So we're gonna cement them up just like we did the midsoles, and then we'll call Cobbler Tobias in to help us with sticking them. He's really good at placements.
Nice. He's meticulous.
Yeah, that way you get the cleats exactly in the center where you want them and everything. So.
These things are looking awesome. What do you think so far?
I'm loving them so far. I like that we're doing the natural welt, how that kind of mixes with the brown Thursday leather.
Yeah, the original one kind of had a natural, lighter finish to it, so we're trying to keep that. So far, I think this looks great. And I see some cement all over the side of the boot, but that's okay. We'll clean those up later.
That's my handiwork right there.
Now, sticking the sole. What I like to do, and I think Tony mentioned it earlier, is I like to come down from the top instead of kind of blindly sticking it like this. So what I'll do is I'll, looking down like I'm looking down at my toes, I'll try to make sure I have a relatively even spacing around all the edges. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then you kind of just, kind of lightly stick that. And then what you want to do is come down, and what I like to do is look down through this way to make sure that my heel is going to roll and land nice and centered that way too.
Nice.
And then I'll stick down in the middle, and it's the same process as it was with the midsole. Stick through the center, press it out, hammer it down. And then again, same thing. You want to come back over to this welt press. And then you got your sole.
Nice. Just like that.
And then we'll sand and shape it up and give it a little bit more curvature and make it really look good right before we stitch it.
Sweet. Eyeballing it like that. Okay. Down the barrel here. Oh, get this at an angle.
Alright, so don't force your twist. Go ahead and pull it back off. Yep.
No.
All the way.
Big all out.
It's pretty sticky. Here, let me give you. I'm gonna just go ahead and do it for you.
Shouldn't we do that?
So you were in the right spot on the toe. You just had it a little bit twisted, and then you were trying to chase it with the heel. That's it. And then press it through, hammer it down.
Sweet.
Okay, so now you can see when you're looking at the sole, it doesn't really have like a really good shape to it. And when you're looking at the top, you got a whole lot of welt down here. in that waist area. So when we're shaping it, we're going to kind of try to dig into that a little bit and give it a little bit more shape to it as well. Tiny little blades got all of these like nasty little teeth on it, right?
Yeah.
And that will go right down to the bone really fast. So we keep our hands away from that one.
So Toby's going to be doing both of these.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to let you just work on a piece of scrap here instead of an actual shoe. Yeah, so you get the experience of what it's like. So you want to make sure this is not up too close. You want to have a good little string. This right pedal lifts the presser foot up. That's what puts the pressure on it to keep it from jumping all over the place. Okay. You slide it in. You let the pressure foot down. Give it a little tug to lock it in place. And then you hold this with this hand, and this is a gas pedal. It's just like a car.
Okay.
So the harder you mash it, the faster the machine goes. The less you mash it, the slower the machine goes. Okay. So that's what it is. And then what you want to do is, you don't want to stare right here, which is where everybody likes to stare. You want to stare here where you're going. Okay. That way when you get to the curve, you're not running off the curve because you're still looking at the straightaway in the background. Okay. So it's like driving a car. You just look ahead where you're going.
All right. We'll see how good I am at driving a car. All right.
Okay, you didn't give it enough gas to get started, so the all didn't punch through. All right, now she's ready to run. bad time. As you see where Tobias roughed up the sole in this area here, we need to rough up the bases so we can cement them on, because day-night soles are so soft. If we just try to use nails to go through them, it won't hold. They'll just tear right through. So we want to have a double insurance. That's why the bases that you had to get off earlier were so difficult, because it had that soft midsole and that soft sole. So Thursday knew they better glue that bad boy on. So that's why you were struggling so hard to get it loose. So we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to rough this up and get it smoother, because this is the factory pinch. So we want it to look really good when we get ready to set everything on. So you're going to step over here and I'll show you how to rough this up, and you can do one. Okay, so this is where your earlier cement brush usage is going to come in very necessary, because you got to cut a fine line here.
Okay.
So you want to clean your brush to where you don't have too much cement. Get it cleaned off, and then you see where that line was scored right there. You want to stay just behind that line, kind of like trimming a paint job in a house. And then you get your cement on back here. And you get your heel base cemented. Just that score line right there. Alright, so now what we want to do is place the base right up to our line. Make sure it lines up back here.
Okay. That's the important part, right?
That's the important part, yeah. So we get that lined up back there, put our base on. And then we hammer it. You want to give it a good firm.
Sweet.
So what we're going to do now is balance the boot. See how it's pivoting on the front edge here, and you got a little rock.
Right.
Okay, they call that heel spring.
Okay.
All right, Thursday boots were not designed with heel spring. Some shoes and boots are designed with heel spring, so you want to leave that in. In this case, we do not want to leave it in because it's not the way the boot was designed. So what we got to do is take and bevel our bases just enough, and if you looked at the old bases that came off of your boots, they were thinner in the front and thicker in the back. So we got to kind of duplicate that bevel and get your boot back level. So kind of difficult. Notice how I'm stabbing.
Yeah.
See, it's threaded so it won't back out. And what I did was I picked a length that would go down and hit in the leather inner sole, midsole, and it'll grip in that because it won't grip in this rubber.
Oh, okay.
So.
Times to try right here.
So what you do is you get it started like that and like that.
Simple.
Yeah.
Oh, that one just broke in half.
Yeah, you'll have to put another nail right beside of it.
Okay.
Again, you get your cement on your heel base. And then on your heel, top lift. Why do you get everything covered?
Because cement don't stick when it ain't.
Where cement
Where
ain't
the
at.
cement ain't at.
That's
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Okay, so now the important thing is that we get the heel centered with everything else. And we want to get this breast line lined up as close as we possibly can, along with getting everything centered. So when we sand it, because this has a pattern, everything will be symmetrical. Yeah. And then just hammer it down. Notice I'm using a big arm swing on this one. I want the heel to stick real good. And it's a thick rubber, so it needs a harder hit. So this is called the breast of the heel. This angled shaped cone right here is called a breaster.
Okay.
Okay, and so what you want to do is you want to get in and you have to match the angle of that to make this straight, not angled one way or the other. So you want to get it, and then that way we can get rid of this excess that's not lining up perfectly with the thing. Once we sand off the breast and get it clean, then we'll come over and sand off the excess here. And if you feel right here, feel that lip.
Right, yeah.
So even though Tobias sanded this all nice and smooth, when the stitcher stitched it, it squeezes the leather and made it pucker out. So we're going to resand all of this with the rough and get it smooth, and then we'll smooth everything out on the smooth paper.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna take over from here, but you can see by feeling this, you know, it's pretty lumpy.
Yeah.
Going like that and everything. So before we take it too far and have to redo this whole job, just so you have a good looking boot, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it out for you. Okay.
Sounds good.
But you did good. You know, you're doing really well around the machine and stuff. Just takes a little bit of time to fine tune that and get
smoothness.
Get that smoothness going. Yeah. So this is a bevel tool. It's when we sanded the new welt, little lip rolls up and leaves fuzzies and everything. So we're gonna take and clean that off. See how much cleaner it looks around there now.
Yeah, it looks way better.
Not real hard.
So there we have it. We have the finished product. I mean, these things are awesome. Not too far from how they were factory, but you know, some subtle differences. Like I know you picked out that orange stitch on the bottom. Love that. And then yeah, the natural color, we changed from a rubber midsole to that leather midsole. Gives it a lot more of a leather look, and then with that natural edge finish, just really pops up against this what is this, a cordovan type burgundy color to them. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So as far as the process goes, what are your thoughts on that? What was your favorite thing and what was the hardest thing?
Well, first thing I'll say is take your shoes to a professional. So that's what the first thing I learned. But overall, it was really cool to learn from you guys, all the knowledge that you guys brought, and you know, walking me through what this boot would look like before I could even kind of tell. You guys had to help me visualize what it was going to look like, so that now that at the end of this process, like I'm loving the look of these boots. They look super cool. I'm super excited to wear them. I thought they were done. I thought they were in the trash, but they have a brand new life. I could wear these for another 3-4 years.
Absolutely.
In terms of the process, like using some of these machines, having you guys as like hands-on help with that. Overall, just really fun. I had a great time, and I feel like I learned a ton from you guys, which is great.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to do these for you, and to help us, you know, make this video come to life. So, you guys subscribe and stay tuned for the next one.